As the first light of dawn kissed the rice fields, the village was cloaked in a solemn hush. The bamboo grove swayed gently, as though bowing in homage. It was as if the earth itself mourned the passing of the man who had understood it so well. Slowly, the village stirred to life. It was noticed that Dumangan sat atop his favorite boulder. This boulder had been pulled from the earth when expanding the paddies, requiring the entire village to roll it to the top of a hill to prevent drainage issues. For years, this had been his place, to sit, to watch the harvest progress, and to offer wisdom to anyone who sought his guidance. But today, something was different. A small, gnarled tree had grown along the side of the boulder, its branches arching over Dumangan to shield him in perpetual shade. The villagers approached, curious and bemused, and found him resting against the tree, his aged body cradled perfectly by its contours. At first, they thought he was simply sleeping. They called to him gently, then nudged him awake. But Dumangan did not wake. The realization came slowly, like a shadow spreading across the fields. Whispers of grief passed from one villager to the next, carried on the morning breeze. One by one, they gathered around him, their heads bowed. Quietly, they began the sacred task of washing and dressing his body, their movements as deliberate as the rising sun. The wake lasted through the day, the villagers moving quietly and purposefully as they prepared to honor Dumangan. His body, now washed and dressed in simple yet elegant garments, rested beneath the shade of the gnarled tree. Around him, offerings of fruits, grains, and flowers began to gather, a humble reflection of the harvests he had nurtured with his wisdom. As the sun began its slow descent, word of Dumangan's passing spread to the surrounding villages. Messengers, their voices heavy with the weight of loss, carried the news across the hills and valleys. The name of the man who had shared his knowledge so freely, who had inspired others to cultivate not just their fields, but their spirits, rippled outward like seeds cast into fertile soil. "We bring these as thanks for the wisdom he shared, for the seasons of plenty he made possible." Others echoed his sentiments, their words weaving a tapestry of gratitude that filled the night air. The villagers of Dumangan's home welcomed the visitors with quiet gestures of hospitality, offering water, food, and space to sit near the boulder. Together, they shared stories of Dumangan's kindness and wisdom, their voices rising and falling like the rustle of the bamboo grove in the evening breeze. In this way, the gathering became more than a wake. It became a celebration of the life he lived and the enduring legacy he left behind. Visitors kept arriving through the night. The moon hung full in the sky, its light mingling with the faint glow of distant stars. Dumangan's child, nearly grown, yet feeling impossibly small, stepped away from the endless crowd. Emotional and physical exhaustion weighed heavily on her as she climbed the hill to her father's boulder.
The stories she had heard that night were nothing short of miraculous, another side of her father she had never even dreamed of. How could she possibly fill his role? They would look to her now, but for all her observations of him, she had learned so little. Rise early, work the fields, manage the irrigation cycle. Doubt gnawed at her as she approached the boulder, seeking solace in the place where her father had last sat. Sitting beside the boulder, she let her grief wash over her. Her eyes, heavy with tears, drifted across the crowd. That was when she saw her. A woman's presence was unlike any she had encountered. There was something about her, an unnameable quality that commanded attention. Though the woman's gaze flitted between the boulder and the man in the home everyone had come to see, the child's eyes never left her. The woman felt it immediately. This gaze was different, deeper, as if the girl could see her very essence. Though she thought of approaching, she hesitated, testing the child instead. She walked into the crowd, weaving between visitors, her steps purposeful but unhurried. Still, the girl's gaze followed. The woman's heart quickened. She stopped by a tree, resting her hand against its trunk. Nearby travelers were oblivious, their attention on their companions. The woman turned, looking back toward the boulder, now obscured by another hut. Yet even hidden from view, she felt the child's eyes on her. Silently she stepped into the tree, her presence dissolving into the bark. No one noticed, no one except the girl. The child's gaze shifted immediately to the knotted tree beside the boulder. The woman stilled, astonishment blooming in her chest. This was the same feeling she had sensed in her lost love, a knowing that transcended sight. Could it be? Her disbelief deepened, and she resolved to test the girl one last time. If the child truly possessed this sight, the woman would uncover herself and explain everything. If not, she would offer her condolences and vanish into the night. Gathering her resolve, she transferred her essence to the very tree she had grown the night before near the boulder. The moment she arrived, the girl's attention turned sharply to the knotted branches. The woman paused, unprepared for such certainty. This was no coincidence. The girl could see her. The girl remained by the boulder, her fingers tracing the knotted bark of the tree that had grown overnight. She hadn't noticed when the woman appeared beside her, stepping from the shadows with a quiet grace that defied explanation. The presence of this stranger, so sudden, so profound, should have startled her, yet it didn't. Instead, it felt as though the woman had always been there, waiting for the right moment to be seen. The stars scattered across the sky began to shimmer more intensely, their light seeming to draw closer to the moon. It was a celestial display that seemed orchestrated, as if the heavens themselves were acknowledging the presence of something extraordinary. "You see me." The girl froze, her fingers pausing on the bark. She looked up into eyes that seemed impossibly old, filled with the wisdom of countless seasons.
"Who are you?" "I am called many things, but none by your father. To him I was simply her, the one who watched, who lingered, who could not stay away." "You knew him? My father?" "I knew him long before he was a father, long before your village knew his name. I first noticed him as a boy, toiling in the fields with a patience and care I had never seen in your kind. While others cursed the soil for its stubbornness, he sang to it. His hands were steady, his heart kind. He did not just take from the land, he gave. He would sit beneath the shade of the trees I had grown, unaware of my presence, his thoughts full of how to coax life from the earth. I had watched many like him before, but none stirred me to step closer. He was different. He saw the world as I saw it, not just as a means to survive, but as a living, breathing being to cherish. Did he know you were there? Not at first. I was careful, cautious. To reveal myself was to risk everything, my home, my people. But he made it impossible to remain hidden. His devotion, his longing to understand, his endless questions whispered to the trees, I could not help but answer. I showed myself to him one night, when the moon was full and the fields were quiet. He did not fear me, as others might. Instead, he marveled, not at my form, but at my truth. He wanted to know why I cared for the land as he did, why I danced among the fields. And so I told him. What did you tell him? That I was a guardian, a caretaker of the balance between your world and mine, that our kind and yours are bound together. What you sow, we nurture. What you destroy, we grieve. He listened, and he understood. More than that, He saw me, not as a spirit or a legend, but as a person. He loved me. And you loved him? I did, but I could not stay. Your people feared what they did not understand, and his trust in me was not enough to shield him from their doubt. I left to protect him, though it broke my heart. He waited for you. He spoke of you even when no one believed him. The dumangan woman's face was momentarily bathed in a radiant halo, the silver moonlight accentuating her earthy beauty and amplifying her presence. The daughter blinked and rubbed her eyes, thinking it a trick of her grief and sorrow, but the glow lingered before subtly fading into the night. I know. I was always near, watching, guiding, though he did not always see me. When he needed help, I gave it. When he faltered, I steadied him. I could not leave him entirely, not when I loved him so deeply. Why are you telling me this now? Because you carry his heart, his love for the land, his compassion, his strength. They live in you. But I see your fear, your doubt, and I cannot let you face this alone. I'm not strong enough. I can't do what he did. Your father was not born strong. He grew strong by listening, by learning, by never giving up. You will do the same. And though you cannot see the world as I do, you can still protect it, nurture it, love it. That is your legacy, as much as it was his. As they spoke, the ambient noises of the night, crickets, rustling leaves, distant animal calls, gradually softened into an almost reverent silence. The stillness was heavy, charged, as though the very air waited for something profound to occur. But I don't know how. You will learn, and I will be here, just as I was for him, not always seen, but always present. Trust yourself, as he trusted you. You are more than enough. In his final days, your father could no longer ignore me. It was as though the veil that had separated our worlds for so long had thinned. He would see me in the rustling leaves, in the swaying grass, in the shimmer of the water where the fields met the forest. I did not try to hide. I could not bear it any more. He would always find me, always.
She paused, her gaze distant, filled with both tenderness and sorrow.
He would come to the trees, touching them as though seeking my hand. When the rough bark would scratch his skin, I shifted myself to bamboo and smoother trunks so that he might find comfort. But he did not care for the pain. It was as though he wanted to feel my presence through every sense, to know that I was real.
The girl listened in silence, her breath catching as the woman continued.
He would follow me, though his body grew frail and his steps uncertain. I led him gently, always just beyond his reach, to keep him moving. When his strength gave out, when hunger or exhaustion overcame him, I could not bear to see him suffer. I would grow fruit around him, mangoes, guava, lychee, jackfruit, even wild fruits your village has never seen. The scent would stir him, and he would eat, regain his strength, and follow again. I led him to a place I had prepared long ago, though I did not know then that it would be for him. It was a small pool, fed by a gentle waterfall, nestled among rocks and shaded by trees. The water was warm and clear, its surface reflecting the stars. It was there, as he sat beside the pool, that we spoke, truly spoke, for so many years. What did he say? He did not speak at first. He looked at me as though seeing the answer to a question he had carried all his life. Then, finally, he said, "You came back." I told him I never truly left, that I had been there, always, watching, guiding, even when he could not see me. He laughed, a soft, tired laugh, and said he had always known, deep down, that he could feel me in the wind, in the soil, in the life of the fields. And then? And then he asked why I had stayed. I told him the truth, because I loved him, because I could not leave him, even when I tried. He did not seem surprised. He only smiled and said, "I love you too." We spoke of many things that night, his life, his regrets, his joys. He asked about the trees and the fields, the seasons and the cycles. He wanted to understand everything. And then, as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, he closed his eyes and rested against the smooth trunk of a tree I had shaped for him. As the dumangan woman continued her story, the moonlight seemed to deepen in its glow, spilling over the bamboo grove in cascading silver streaks. The girl noticed it faintly, her mind too occupied with the weight of the tale to give it much thought. It felt as though the light itself was listening, wrapping them both in its quiet radiance. Was he afraid? No, he was at peace. He told me he could feel the land, the life he had nurtured, flowing through him. He said it felt like coming home. And you stayed with him? Until his last breath. And then I let the earth take him, as gently as it had held him all his life. I stayed to guide his breath, to ensure he would find his way in peace. And now I am here, with you, at the very place I comforted him last. The girl looked at the woman, her grief mingling with wonder and a growing sense of purpose. For the first time, she felt the weight of her father's legacy not as a burden, but as a gift, and in the presence of the woman who loved him so deeply, she felt a spark of the strength she would need to carry it forward. The girl closed her eyes, her tears falling freely. When she opened them, the woman was gone, but the tree seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight, its branches reaching towards the sky as if to embrace her. For the first time since her father's passing, she felt a quiet, steadfast hope.